What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Here we are with another reaction, and this is crazy. Here's what happens if someone invades the UK. Before we dive into this, if you guys happen to enjoy, please don't forget to smash subscribe, give the video a thumbs up. Also, if you'd like to support the channel by becoming a member, all you gotta do is hit that join button and receive your exclusive benefits. Let's get right to it.
This is crazy. Imagine waking up to headlines that anyone, has decided to invade the United Kingdom. The world's most densely trafficked waters at your front door, nuclear submarines slipping unblinking through the deep, RAF jets punching into the clouds in minutes, and a nation that's been practicing the art of not being conquered for nearly 1,000 years. How does that story actually play out? Spoiler, not the way any invader hopes. Start with the mood music. Britain is rearming. London has locked in a climb to 2.5% of GDP on defense by 2027, with an ambition to push toward 3% in the next parliament. Part of a strategic reset shaped by Russia's war on Ukraine, drone and missile warfare at sea, and the return of great power competition, the government says it plainly: make Britain battle-ready with alliances first and advanced capabilities to match. In other words, if you were thinking soft target, think again. History.
I think it's dope. Kind of seeing just like when I think of 2 to 3%, I'm like, bro, that's not much money at all. But when you think about the GDP of an entire country, 2 to 3% of that, and each little half a percent, 0.1% is gigantic when you think of the entire GDP. But that's just me. I feel like conquering it, bro. Brits have been, I mean, this is the biggest empire the world has ever seen through their history. They fought in so many wars. They've been through so much fighting, bro. It's like it might be instinctual for them. They might be born with instincts when it comes to war at this point. So y'all think it might be sweet, it might be easy. They're not the same Britain that they once were, but they done beat insurmountable odds time after time.
Isn't prologue, it's warning. When Britain was last under existential threat, the Battle of Britain shut the door on Operation Sea Lion. The Luftwaffe battered UK cities in the Blitz, and Radar, Resolve, and RAF Fighter Command bent the arc of the war. Those months left permanent grooves in UK defense thinking, early warning, integrated air defense, mobilized industry, and an all-of-society posture when survival is at stake. The institutional memory lives on in planning rooms from Northwood to High Wycombe. Geography is the UK's first weapon. The island fortress cliché is true for good reason. At the Strait of Dover, the channel narrows to roughly 34 kilometers, tempting to look at on a map, hellish in reality. That bottleneck is the world's busiest shipping lane, churning with commercial traffic, maritime surveillance, and NATO eyes. Complicated water for an amphibious armada to sneak across. Hug the coast to hide, and you risk mines, patrols, and queuing by shore-based radars. Swing wide and you're out under the RAF and Royal Navy for longer, with satellites and submarine periscopes adding to the headache. For an invader, the channel is less a moat than a meat grinder. So, what's actually waiting if you try? Start with the Royal Navy. 2 big deck carriers, HMS Queen Elizabeth and HMS Prince of Wales, form the core of a carrier strike group designed for power projection, sea control, and air defense. Screening those decks are Type 45 destroyers, Aegis-era peers in everything but name, whose Sea Viper system just swatted a supersonic sea-skimming target during NATO's formidable SHIELD exercise, a pointed demonstration of how modern British air defense fights over water. Under the waves, Astute-class attack submarines hunt silently with Spearfish torpedoes and Tomahawk cruise missiles, while Dreadnought-class ballistic missile subs move toward replacing the vanguards in the 2030s to keep the continuous at-sea deterrent unbroken. And coming next, SSNAUKUS, new attack submarines for the late 2030s, marrying UK hulls and sensors with Allied tech and British reactors. If your team sheet says invade Britain, you'd better have a plan for all of that. The RAF
you better just turn it around. Don't even try it. If y'all heard what I just heard, don't even try it, bro. That's a fortress. That island is a fortress. There ain't problems that you want. They gonna see you coming. You gonna have to deal with the Navy. You gonna have to deal with the RAF. You gonna have to deal with allies. You gonna have to deal with everything. Just don't even do it.
Nation's door bolt in the sky. Quick reaction alert, Typhoons launch from Lossiemouth and Coningsby to meet suspicious tracks in minutes, and those jets have been busy over Europe, practicing, intercepting, and reminding would-be adventurers what ready looks like. Carriers put F-35B stealth jets where the fight is hottest, and the RAF's newest long-endurance asset, the Protector RGMK-1, has entered service, bringing armed ISTAR with 40-hour endurance and certification to fly in UK airspace. That matters in an invasion scenario because persistent sensors are how you keep the lights on in a fog of war environment. You can't hit what you can't find, and Britain is investing to make sure it can find plenty. On land, the British Army has been rebuilding for high-intensity war. The Challenger 3 program is pushing a harder-hitting main gun, better protection, and digital architecture into the armored core. Archer-wheeled howitzers have begun their first operational deployments with British gunners. Ajax reconnaissance vehicles are finally moving toward initial operating capability, and MLRS batteries are being upgraded with longer-range rockets. Add Sky Sabre, mobile, medium-range air defense firing the CAM family to protect critical nodes, and an invader's map starts to fill with "don't go there" circles. Is everything perfect? No. Timelines slip and procurement is hard, but the trend line points to a British army that shoots farther, sees further, and moves faster than it did 5 years ago. Now picture the invader's playbook. Route 1 is amphibious. Assemble a fleet, run the gauntlet, land a lodgment. But this is a channel with radars looking down from E-7 wedgetails as they arrive, Typhoons overhead, F-35Bs from a carrier if necessary, and destroyers and submarines cutting the water column into kill boxes. Even if you got
with the geography, bro, it's just uninvadable. You're gonna get caught coming, no matter which way you come, through the air, through the water, whichever way you come, some kind of radar is going to pick you up, and you will be dealt with accordingly. Yeah, don't
got
even
lucky
try.
with weather and deception, your assault ships would face sea-skimming missile threats, submarines lurking on the approaches, mines, and fast jets firing beyond visual range missiles over contested airspace. And then you still have to get through the beaches, ports, or causeways. It's D-Day in reverse, with the Defender owning the radar, the waters, and the nuclear-tinged backstop. Route 2 is an air and missile blitz designed to paralyze and shock. That means cruise missiles threading valleys for airfields and command nodes, ballistic shots for drama, and drones to soak up expensive interceptors. The UK's answer is layered and getting thicker. Sky Sabre for medium-range ground defense, Type 45s pushing Sea Viper coverage over the approaches, and real-world combat experience against drones and ballistic missiles from the Red Sea, where HMS Diamond made the Royal Navy's first anti-ballistic missile kill in combat. The unpleasant truth for any attacker is that every success against UK air defense becomes a lesson learned, a software patch, or a new radar plan a week later. And the gaps? They exist, especially in homeland missile defense, and London is adding more systems and knitting sensors together to narrow them. The direction of travel is clear. Route 3 is the gray zone. Sabotage, cyber, pressure on undersea.
As you can see, Route 2 ain't what you want. Again, you're gonna get picked up by radars. Again, you're gonna get hit with missiles. Again, they're just shooting a bunch of missiles. Our air defense systems, they gonna catch that. That ain't gonna work. So Route 1, Route 2, cut off. Route 3.
Cables, disinformation, and economic disruption. Here, the UK brings the National Cybersecurity Centre, GCHQ, and a push for a whole-of-society resilience framework. The data is sobering. Ransomware has ticked up, and Parliament is probing how to harden critical national infrastructure. But in an invasion scenario, those institutions become the nervous system of national resistance, keeping the power on, the phones up, the trains running, and the bad guys off SCADA consoles. It's not glamorous, but it's decisive. Let's talk about some uniquely British tricks that make invasion planners develop sudden headaches. Dragonfire, the UK's high-energy laser, has already burned drones out of the sky on trials, with a cost per shot in the single-digit pounds. Pair that with a radio frequency-directed energy weapon that can fry a swarm for pennies, and you're looking at cost-exchange ratios that terrify any drone-heavy attacker. Lasers and RFDEWs aren't silver bullets, but they are ammunitionless magazines, which is a fancy way of saying, keep sending your $20,000 drones, we'll keep spending £10 a zap. That math scales badly for the attacker and beautifully for the defender. Before we go further, a word about Britain's convoys under the sea. An invader can threaten shipping, cables, and gas lines, but the UK has spent money and metal on protecting the seabed. RFA Proteus, the first of a new breed of subsea surveillance and protection vessels, is purpose-built to find and deter interference with critical undersea infrastructure. That's not the kind of ship that wins headlines, but it's exactly the kind that ruins an adversary's flip-the-lights-off plan. Now, jokes about British weather aside, any invader betting on storms to ground the RAF.
So yeah, as you can see, that plan ain't gonna work easy. Trying to cut Britain off, they go to some committee with the world, and the world gonna be like, nah, you're not cutting supplies off. You're not gonna starve them. You're not gonna do all that. We're not allowing that. And so that's not a path you can go down. You just they got it all shot. You can't just send your drones and everything. They got this laser, $10 a zap, or 10 pounds a zap. Might be the most cost effective weapon on the market, especially seeing the war with Ukraine and Russia, seeing as drones are used heavily on the battlefield. And I think that's why these countries are starting to use these lasers. But yeah, let's continue.
Might want to remember that the same storms slam landing craft and drones. The channel's tides don't care about your timetable. They will move your assault window for you. Good luck synchronizing ballistic missile salvos with sea states and tide tables. The Royal Navy does that dance for a living. All right, let's push the scenario. The first salvos land. Runways crater. The UK disperses aircraft, shifts operations to alternate bases, and pulls in NATO airborne warning and refueling assets. Skysaber batteries reposition, Type 45s extend air defense umbrellas offshore, and protector orbits keep painting moving targets. Meanwhile, Dragonfire prototypes and RFDEW demonstrators, once testers' toys, sprint along fast-track fielding lanes because cost-effective drone killing has just become a national sport. Add in the Sea Viper upgrade path, Aster evolutions designed to handle faster, tougher threats, and the attacker's initial confidence fades with every intercepted track. There's another British edge, industry that can surge. The Strategic Defense Review talks openly about moving to wartime footing if required, and Whitehall has been leaning into munitions, long-range strike, and the supply chain. BAE Systems is standing up new lines and novel methods to multiply artillery shell output. Think continuous flow explosive production and containerized plants that reduce reliance on imported ingredients. A new artillery facility in Sheffield is part of that broader revival. In a long fight, shells, propellant, and spare parts are the difference between a plan and a prayer. And London is trying finally to buy itself stamina. Cyber and AI? The UK wrote the paperwork and is now pushing to operationalize it. The Defense AI strategy aims to make the MOD AI ready, and the NCSC has been warning, training, and occasionally yelling about ransomware and critical infrastructure resilience. The point is not just to harden the networks, but to ensure command will function under digital bombardment. When the gray zone lights up, the UK's playbook is to ride out the punches and keep making decisions faster than the attacker can disrupt them. Call it blitz resistance. And then there's the one factor no invader.
It's just insane. Like everybody, that you see the world turning to AI for sure. I think right now I see the world power structure starting to shift a bit. Things are starting to change. You're seeing more countries starting to arm up and look to more future kind of war, like future kind of weapons and technology. And it's just kind of insane seeing some of the weapons that the UK already has, and then some of the weapons that may come out in the 2030s, and what's being worked on. And it's just like, my days, like we're in a crazy world where people have brains have come up with the craziest of inventions, and we're still pushing further.
Can game the British nuclear deterrent. CASD has sailed without a break since the 1960s, and Dreadnought-class SSBNs are on the way to ensure that continues into the 2060s. Warhead numbers are limited compared to the mega arsenals of the Cold War superpowers, but the point of the UK deterrent is not volume, it's certainty. If you invade and threaten national survival, there is always a submarine you cannot find carrying missiles you cannot stop. That logic closes doors in enemy strategy rooms before the first missile flies. The nuclear picture may soon have a second note. Britain is moving to join NATO's nuclear sharing mission by reintroducing an air-delivered element via F-35A, restoring a capability retired in the 1990s. That doesn't make a
Oh
full
wow.
triad, no land-based missiles, but it does complicate an adversary's calculus, adding flexibility and signaling resolve alongside the sea-based core. In a crisis, ambiguity about where the sting can come from is a feature, not a bug, all of which sits inside the biggest shield of all, NATO. Article 5's promise, attack one, face all, means any invasion of the UK is by definition a war with an alliance that flies E-3-7, sails Aegis, fields Patriots, and SAMP/T, and owns the Atlantic lifelines. RAF Typhoons intercepting Russian aircraft over the Baltic on NATO duty tell you everything about how quickly European airspace tightens when the phone rings. An invader
Yeah.
wouldn't just meet Britain, they'd meet the alliance
Yeah.
that Britain helped build. Good luck.
Yeah.
Civilian resilience is the hard, unglamorous half.
I think that would be the thing. It's not just Britain you'd be fighting if you were invading. You'd be fighting all of NATO, and I think countries know better. They absolutely know better, and so they don't attack it. Now you're seeing with Trump kind of being a little more unreliable to a lot of countries. You're seeing a lot of these countries starting to arm, starting to spend more on their defense spending, and now they're arming up more and more. So more countries are getting
Of
armed.
winning at home. The UK's resilience framework calls it a whole of society effort. Businesses that can run on backup systems, local authorities that keep water and power stable, and citizens who know what to do when the sirens go. It sounds mundane. It is decisive. Consider how quickly Ukraine adapted to blackouts and strikes. Societal resilience becomes a strategic weapon when the
True.
enemy's plan
True.
relies on panic. London's message to the country is increasingly frank. In a real crisis, everyone has a role. That doesn't mean
For
ration
sure.
books tomorrow. It means planning now so that the lights stay on when someone tries to turn them off. Let's zoom back into the battlefield. An invader might try to saturate the channel with drones to blind radars and harass shipping. Britain's answer blends old and new. The Type 45's Sea Viper is already batting down supersonic targets. Sky Sabre batteries hunt air breathers inland, and emerging directed energy systems punish the economics of mass. Meanwhile, the RN's carriers position F-35Bs to kill the launch platforms, bombers, ships, or coastal batteries before they reset for another wave. Add SSNs stalking the approaches, and you've got a conveyor belt of pain for any force trying to keep pressure on. One data
Yeah,
point from reality.
definitely.
In the Red Sea, British ships have faced combined barrages of drones and missiles and kept fighting. That experience matters when writing the playbook for home waters. Ports, pipelines, and
Absolutely
cables
matters.
will be targets too. That's why ships like RFA Proteus exist, why Allied P-8 patrol aircraft scan choke points, and why the UK invests in anti-submarine warfare from frigate sonars to Merlin helicopters, and it's why the UK's shipbuilding, subbuilding, and munitions plans, often dismissed as industrial policy, are in fact survival policy. An island nation fights with what it can sail, fly, and build, and what it can keep sailing, flying, and building on day 30, not just day 1. What about ground forces at home? Britain's regular army is small by historical standards, but size is not the only number that matters. Mobility, fires, and sensors shape the fight. Archer moves, shoots, and scoots. Ajax brings a digital scout to the party. Upgraded MLRS reaches deeper, and a revitalized home air defense umbrella
This is
complicates any
insane.
attempt to pick off infrastructure. Add reservists, new homeland security demands, and police and civil contingencies, and you get a picture of a country that can generate internal friction for any infiltrators or saboteurs
Yeah.
who slip past the wire. Yes, the army has nursed
Yeah, I think there's no way that you slip past the wire in the first place. There's no way that you get there because there's so many weapons and radars and tools and deterrents and all of that before you even invading Britain is just a bad idea. And I don't think any country would pull that right now. In the future, I don't know if it'll still be a terrible idea, but it's not something that's going to work out for you. So it just absolutely wouldn't be smart. But even if you got past the laws, definitely from the videos I've seen, the people of UK are absolutely resilient. We even go all the way back to World War II. It took men, women, and children. It took every single person in the country to help with those war efforts. They're a country that's capable of doing that. So that ain't what you want.
procurement migraines. No, an invader isn't getting a free run at Britain's roads and railheads. A word on humor, because it matters. British culture, wry, stubborn, allergic to bull, has a proven utility in ugly times. You can't jam a community that already mocks your propaganda. You can't terrorize a population that turns "keep calm and carry on" from a poster into a reflex. And try as you might, you cannot intimidate a nation whose national sport appears to be complaining about weather while operating jet fighters in it. That morale is not soft power. In an invasion, it's hard. Now imagine the end game. The amphibious push stalls under missile curtains, submarines, and mines. Air and missile attacks continue, but interception rates climb as software updates and dispersal kick in. Drone swarms arrive to find lasers and RFDEW, making them a budgetary liability. Gray zone gambits fizzle as the NCSC patches and the public refuses to panic. NATO air and naval power stacks up across the North Atlantic and North Sea. The UK's nuclear deterrent sits silent and patient, turning any thought of escalation into a career-ending idea in a foreign capital. Somewhere, a planner looks at a map and says, "We need a new plan." So, could someone invade the UK? They can try. But geography, technology, alliances, nuclear certainty, and a society that knows how to grimace and get on with it make success vanishingly unlikely. The island is still an island. The Channel is still a curse to armadas. The RAF still scrambles, the Navy still sails, and the red light in the operations room still means don't. To win here, an invader would have to outthink, outshoot, and outendure not just Britain, but NATO. That's not a war, that's a fantasy. The real question is simpler and more interesting. In a decade defined by drones, data, and deterrence, how does the UK keep making invasion unthinkable? The answer is the plan you just heard. Spend, modernize, ally, harden, and keep the moat angry. And if you're still tempted to try your luck, bring a calculator. Britain has started pricing defense by the penny per shot. The invoice will ruin your day.
Dude, absolutely great freaking video. Loved that. You don't want to mess with the UK. I think that's what we learned from the video. Anybody paying attention, anybody watching, learn. Yeah, you don't want to ruin your day. You don't want to try to attack. If you saw the submarines, the aircraft, the the warships, the radars, the drones, the lasers, the all of it. Don't do it to yourself. That's all we have. Y'all let me know what y'all think in the comment section. If you enjoyed, don't forget to subscribe, give it a thumbs up, check out the next. I'll see y'all next time.